Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. This is your host, Clayton Fletcher. Excited to be bringing you yet another episode. Really feeling the love, you guys. Appreciate all the comments on Twitter, all the ratings and reviews of the podcast. I really feel like people are showing a lot of love, and I'm very happy to tell you that this week it will not be just you and me like it was last time. I know some of you are probably getting sick of hearing me talk to myself in my bedroom. So I want to bring on our guest, and it's our guest from just 3 short weeks ago, back joining us once again. Please welcome back to the program, Jason Smith. How are you, Jason?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. You let me know. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to tell the listeners that you're not exactly 100%. So have you come down with something? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just change of weather. Like, it was like 85 degrees for 3 days in a row, and then it dropped down into like the 60s today.
Oh, yeah, that's always
so
fun.
It's just like one of those where like the kids just sort of ran through it, so it's just sort of, hanging with me.
Okay, so it's just like a change of weather, but you'll be able to plow through and
Yeah, we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Yeah, I cannot subject our loyal listeners to another episode with just my voice for 60 minutes. We're not going to do that to you guys, okay? You get Jason has a very pleasant voice, even with congestion or whatever he's got. But what's funny is we never have 100% of Jason, because last time you were like 5-tabling some kind of ACR series, right? While we were trying to talk to you, and now this time you got the flu or whatever it is. So maybe one of these days I'll have like the full effect. But I'm sure that Jason at 50% plus me has got to be better than just me any day. So,
well, you might be overpromising here.
Okay, I tend to do that. I do. So, tell us how that went for you that night. You were podcasting with me while competing for millions in the what do they call it, the OSS or whatever?
Yeah. Nothing jumps out at me about how the night went as far as the poker goes. Mm-hmm. So I don't think anything special happened on the tables, but I had a blast with you last time, which is why I'm here again this time, because I enjoyed it so much that when the invitation came out, I jumped all over it.
Well, I appreciate that, man. The listeners, the TPE Nation, as I think we're going to start calling them. I think I just started calling them that for the first time. The TPE Nation needs to know what's going on with the poker world, and they want to be in touch with the coaches, with the pros, and with everyone that's in any way connected to TPE. So we are going to be bringing them content each and every week. We want to find out what people are doing, what they're playing, how it's going, what they're working on in their games, and the podcast is a huge part of that. So I appreciate you coming on. I think the feedback that we got from the other episode that you did with me, people love you, man. So I'm really happy that you were up for it again tonight, especially in your weekend afflicted condition. So thank you.
It's not that bad. It was more one of those things when I was like, hey, could we postpone it maybe or whatever? It's more just because I'm not quite 100%, but I'm just kind of a baby when I don't feel good. I could be way worse.
It's not that big of a deal. He's doing this for you. He's literally on his deathbed, and he's doing this for the fan base. So you guys better damn well appreciate it. All right.
It's more just like I'm just a little bit more sweaty than I'm comfortable with.
That's cool. It's completely undetectable to anyone listening how sweaty you are. Great. So I want to get into it a little bit, talk about this new YouTube vlogger who's burst onto the scene. Are you familiar with this Marley Cordero? I know we didn't discuss this beforehand. Do you know who she is and what she's doing?
I think that I've caught a couple of her vlogs, if it's who I'm thinking of. You know what? Let me just pull up YouTube and look at my recommendeds because it might be in there.
She's making a huge splash. The whole poker world is talking about this girl, Marley Cordero.
Yup.
I think I'm pronouncing her name right.
Yup.
Very
I
attractive
have seen a
girl.
couple of.
She's doing vlogs in the, Joey Ingram, Doug Polk style. Was I'm going to go play, and then she tells you what happened. She reviews hands. But what she's getting more attention for is openly talking about how she's looking for a poker boyfriend, how she needs a steak. She even made a funny video about how she went to work at the Spearmint Rhino, which is a notorious strip club in Vegas. She lives in Vegas. She used to model in LA. And I wanted to get your thoughts on her because I know how I feel about it, but I wanted to see what other poker players are thinking since she is getting so much attention, not necessarily for her poker. What do you think?
Well, I'll say this. I think I saw the video that was the vlog about, I think it was titled Looking for a Poker Boyfriend.
Yeah.
Where she was walking through, like, all the casinos saying, yep, I fucked that guy, I fucked that guy, like, that whole thing. I'm sure it's cute or whatever. It's not really my speed. I'm a withered old man, so it's, I could see why the young guys would be into it. Not my speed necessarily, but I'm sure she's good at what she does. She held my attention for the whole video. I watched it till the end, so it's not like I had to shut it off early, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an 8-minute video, which by today's standards is extremely long. So
Yeah. I know. I felt like I was just like, how much time am I investing here? What the hell? Well,
yeah. Well, I'm in the entertainment field, as you know, and I like anything that spices things up. I don't think that poker players need to pretend that they are on their best behavior at all times. This young lady is clearly not on her best behavior at all times.
Yeah, she seems a little out of line for sure.
And I think it's fun that she is, putting it out there. And obviously she must know that she's going to get so much attention. I can't imagine what her inbox looks like on Instagram from the thirsty poker community, let's just say.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, if this kind of draws attention to poker and kind of changes the rules as far as what a female poker player is supposed to be. I mean, she's completely unapologetic about wanting to find someone, basically like a sugar daddy or whatever you want to call it. She needs someone to give her money to play with. When she does actually get into talking about hands, which if you watch the vlog series, she does quite a bit of that. She seems to have, a clue about playing cards. I mean, she seems like she mostly focuses on cash games and, she's not a terrible player. Obviously, I don't think.
Yeah, no, she definitely seemed like she knew what she was talking about.
Yeah, so she's not some kind of just dumb girl that wants to try to use sex appeal to get into the poker world. I mean, she's clearly studied and she works hard on her game and all that. But I love the fact that she's being unapologetic about, look, I need money. She's kind of making fun of the guys in poker, focusing the camera on the schlubbiest looking fat guy at the table, being like, nope, I already been with him, so he's out. It's kind of a silly joke, but whatever.
I wonder too, though. Because she's so over the top with it.
Yeah.
I wonder if she is, if she's just sort of making fun of the type of girl she's projecting in her videos.
Right, where it's is this reality or is it parody?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it might be a bit of parody.
Yeah. To me, anything that brings a little fun to the game that has gotten so stale, especially the TV coverage, I think somebody like this, she's got a sense of humor. She's nice to look at, obviously, but she brings something more to the table than just being a pretty girl who plays poker. I think it's fun. I mean, I'm a fan. I guess I'm a fan. Not that I'm subscribing to all her videos and I can't wait till the next vlog comes out, but I'm just a fan in general of anyone that's bringing fun to the game, especially
fair enough.
Yeah, especially when it's not going to really do any damage. Somebody like William Kassouf, his brand of fun to the game was to slow it down and, make everyone complain about how slowly he was playing while he just wants to hear himself talk and do the same 3 jokes 100,000 times on ESPN. I feel like, this actually is fun because here's a girl that's kind of got a different voice, and it's nice to see. I like it. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah. Now, what about you? Have you ever thought about entering the vlog space? I mean, you have the name that everybody wanted, Snostnlost. I mean, it would be such a shame to have that all locked up and not use it full advantage.
Well, I mean, if I ever was fortunate enough to do well enough in live poker tournaments down the road, that all of a sudden my name would attract viewers, then maybe I would consider it.
Right.
But right now I feel like, I mean, you would subscribe to me maybe, and then like 14 other people would, but it wouldn't be much. I just don't think that I have I don't have enough results in live poker on a big stage to sort of warrant an audience. I don't think. Right. And I'm not as pretty as Marley or whatever her name is. So
yeah, I hope I'm even pronouncing her name right. I'm guessing, but hey,
I think it's right. I think it's Marlee. So I think that's right.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure though. I hate when I hear someone mispronounce another person's name repeatedly on a podcast. So I hope that I'm not guilty of that myself right now.
No, I think it's even spelled phonetically. I think it's spelled Marlee.
All right, so we're gonna go with Marley for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that some of the backlash she's getting, now she has her share of haters, and I think that some of the backlash she's getting is because she doesn't have your humility. Here you are, a known entity on TPE, a pro that people look up to, and you're saying, I don't think people would want to watch my blogs. I don't think people, I haven't had enough live results to really do stuff like that. And you have I want to earn it first kind of mentality. And now here she is like, hey, I'm a cute girl who plays poker, so maybe I can get some attention.
Hey, man, but she has that to sell. I don't have that to sell. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. No, but she really does, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just, she has natural genetics or natural biology that she can sell where, I don't have that, right? Well, and that's... I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. It's kind of the fact of the situation, right?
Sure. And I didn't mean to put words in your mouth there, but I do notice that there's a bit of backlash for everyone that seems to think it's cool that she's doing that and that she's kind of a fresh voice. I mean, she's definitely a fresh voice. There's no one else like her on the scene. There are an equal number of people that are, who does she think she is? She's not respecting the game. This kind of stuff.
Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
What does that
That's
even
how I feel
mean?
too. What does that mean?
Sorry about my language, but I just think
okay.
that's just so ridiculous.
Yeah,
who does she think she is? She's disrespecting the game.
Yeah.
Have you met poker players, bro?
Yeah.
That's just how people are. If somebody has any bit of success, there's always going to be people who are going to try and tear it down and make it and minimalize it. And it's I said in the beginning that her sort of brand isn't for me, but that's not because I think she doesn't deserve the attention she's getting. It's just her brand of humor is sort of like the 25-year-old version of myself would have ate it up.
Right. Right, but now
the 37-year-old version of myself it's not my cup of tea, but good for her. I wish her all the success in the world, you know?
But you're all grown up now and you're over it. Right, I got you.
Yeah, it's like single guy humor to me. It's like single guys would be, you know what I mean? Attracted to that sort of thing.
Understood. Well, here's hoping I never grow up, and I'm going to continue to watch it. I think one thing I would like to see is for Marley to actually have some success. I want to see her make a final table on the World Poker Tour or something like that where she can actually put herself on the map for something more than just being the sexy girl that does that silly blog. I want to see her do something big so that she doesn't get an Anna Kournikova kind of stigma to her. She looks good, but she never wins, right? We don't want that. So here, at least one person out here is really rooting for her to do well. I want to see her do well. I think it would be great for the game. Just to call attention, kind of like Danica Patrick did for NASCAR. I mean, I think people started watching auto racing who never would have watched it, but they were just, there was kind of like a feminist message or whatever going on with that. I think it's fun to see how poker can evolve and try to market itself better. because for a while, 15 years ago, poker was as mainstream as it could be, and it looked like it was going to get even more so. And then all of a sudden, as you know, the federal government decided we weren't going to be able to play online anymore, and that kind of dried everything else that was happening up. And we've never fully recovered, at least in the mainstream. You could say, well, the main event had almost a record number of participants, things like that. As far as the game is concerned, there are other means of measurement that you could say the game is alive and well. But, I remember what things used to be, and it is not the same at all.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We're kind of tucked into a corner right now, and I'd love to see someone help us break back into the mainstream and just be a little bit more at the forefront of the public consciousness. I don't know, maybe this whole sports betting law will help. What do you think about that? I mean, obviously, the Supreme Court said that states can decide whether they want to have sports betting, which used to be a federal law that said it had to happen in Nevada. So that's kind of a big change. We're seeing some shifting from that. Do you think this could bleed into poker?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not up on how all of the laws work, but it's sort of, I can make the logical connection that if they're going to allow sports betting and they're going to allow online sports betting, that I can make the jump that I think it makes sense that would open the doors for, a game like poker online.
Yeah, and probably all forms of gambling, because what we've seen is they don't really want to differentiate between, this is a skill game, and that, if you're gambling, you're gambling. So that's the way the government sees it, and that's the way the politicians look at it. No matter how much education the PPA tries to give them, they're like, gambling is gambling. They see slots and poker in the same light, so they have to be cool with all of it, or it's just not going to push through, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, cool. Yeah. I like to start off the podcast every week by kind of, what's going on. And this Marley girl is getting a lot of attention. So I figure we should give her some more. I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on that. So thank you for indulging the unexpected questions about a 25-year-old vlogger.
I'm just glad that I accidentally ran into one of her vlogs. Just it popped up in my YouTube recommendeds, probably earlier this week. It wasn't that long ago. It was a few days ago. I'm just because if it hadn't, I wouldn't even know who you were talking about.
Right. Right. And then
it wasn't on my radar at all. It just happened to be I was like, oh, what's this blog? It popped up on my recommendeds, and I was like, all right, let's check it out.
You know what? If that had happened, we could have just paused this. I could give you a minute to check it out, and then we could talk about it, and you could still come off like the expert you just did. So don't worry.
Nice.
All right. So, do you have any poker hands you want to get into? I know people, they want to hear strategy. They don't care what we think about Marley. They want to learn how to play this game better. So, did you happen to have time to look anything up? If not, I have a few. I
do not. I did not come prepared with any hands this time. Okay. I apologize for that, but no, I don't.
That's okay. Those who listened last week know that I recently participated in the Isle Poker Open in Pompano Beach, Florida. So I have a couple of hands from some tournament events that I played down there. I think we have a few spots here to discuss and kind of get maybe into with you not only the spots themselves, but just kind of general approach to tournaments. So, yeah, why don't we get into it?
Sure.
All right, cool. So this first one here is from an event as part of it's one of the preliminaries for the Isle Poker Open, which is not a huge event, by the way. The main event down there is $1,500. Their high roller is $2,500. So it's definitely a mid-stakes kind of series. We had some pretty big names in the field because there had been a big WPT in Jacksonville, Florida in the days right prior to the main event in Pompano. So I think a lot of the pros felt, well, I'm already in Florida. I might as well, just jet down to Pompano, which is only 10 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, which is definitely a fun place to be. So I think the field was surprising, as I mentioned on a previous episode. So this is a hand from an $1,100 buy-in, 6 max event. It's a 2-day tournament. kind of middle stages, maybe early middle stages of day one. I'm at a 5-handed table because we lost a player, so it's really short-handed. The blinds were 200 and 400, and there was a 400 big blind ante that I paid in this hand. So I'm the big blind in this hand. So it's a 5-handed table. We've got about 22,000. So, yeah, the big blind is 400. We have 22,000. So what is that? 50?
It's like 55 blinds.
Yeah, 55 big blinds or M of 22, however you want to look at it. Everybody folds to the small blind, who is kind of a pretty average tournament reg. He's probably like about 35 years old, Caucasian, a little bit of a goatee, hasn't really been too remarkable as being either tight or loose or anything like that. If anything, I would say he's probably just about, if he had HUD stats, I know you're an online guy, so if you could put HUD stats on a live player, he would probably have average player HUD, right? So nothing really stands out.
Sure.
He opens from the small blind to 900, and I am in the big blind holding king of diamonds, 4 of diamonds. I don't think we can fold. So what do you think about calling as opposed to raising? And if we do raise, what do you think we should make it?
I think it's an okay hand to raise. I probably would just call with position here, but if we did raise, I'd probably make it around 3,000.
Okay. All right. So what's better? Before I reveal what I did, I wanted to get your thoughts on whether you think. Well, how do you balance whether you should raise a suited king? What hands would you raise if you don't raise this one? Kind of give me an idea of how to range myself here.
Yeah. So I think personally in this situation when we're blind versus blind and the small blind is raising into us, I would rather 3-bet a really polarized range. All of my hands that I'm basically going the distance with. Like how many chips did our villain have here?
That's a really important question. I should have told you ahead of time. He's got us covered. He's got about 28,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're playing 55 blinds effective here.
Yeah.
So I think I would want a 3-bet a range that's something like ace queen plus and jacks plus or tens plus, and then have hands that don't flop very well, but could be the best hand, like king 7 offsuit or ace 6 offsuit, and make those my 3-bet bluffs, right? Hands that can take it down a fair amount, but we don't really want to, calling in position doesn't really offer us very many opportunities to win post flop, because it's just not a flop that not hands that are going to connect with the board well enough, often enough that allow us to make a whole lot of chips. So turn the hands that could be the best hand but don't flop well into bluffs is sort of how I would approach that spot.
I like it a lot. So basically, I have a king 4 suited. You would prefer 3-betting with king 4 offsuit just because it's so much harder to have anything on the flop.
Yes.
When you're offsuit. All right.
Yeah, and because our range is polarized, I would go for a large sizing. I think I suggested 3.1 or so. And I think anywhere from 3 to 3.5x is really a good sizing here. So
yeah,
because we're gonna have a very strong range, and then some hands that we're not really looking to get calls. So we either want to have max fold equity or get max value from our big hands.
Sure. I like it a lot. I did choose to 3-bet here.
Okay.
I think now that we talked about it, I kind of like 3-betting more with an offsuit king 4. My rationale was I could quite well have the best hand, but again, it's kind of hard to flop anything you're too proud of with king 4 I mean, I am suited, so there's a little chance I might get some diamonds.
Well, I'll say this, I don't think that 3-betting with King 4 is a mistake, but if you're asking me what strategy I like there personally,
Yeah.
it's the one I said. It doesn't mean that I think that they're like, 3-betting King 4 suited is going to be better than 3-betting King 4 off like in a vacuum, because King 4 suited is going to offer you more semi-bluffs with flush draws, stuff like that, right? So it's not like a terrible hand to do it with by any means.
Yeah, but I definitely see the case for flatting it too. So, I thought it was kind of an interesting pre-flop spot, because I feel like I'm probably going to take it down a lot with this play, and I don't feel like I'm losing that much by doing so. It's not like I can, I feel like if you do this with a hand like pocket fours and you lose your opponent, you risk possibly not being able to win a big pot when you flop a set. So in those cases, it's better to just call. Or maybe if I had like an ace 4 suited, it's a fun hand to call, because you can flop so many flush draws, straight draws, and a lot of them are to the nuts. So yeah, I guess that was kind of my thinking, is that I prefer flatting with those hands. But yeah, I definitely see what you mean. So yeah, I make it 3,000. So I'm in the ballpark where you thought the sizing should be.
Mm-hmm.
And my opponent tanks for probably about 40 seconds, and then he finally calls. So we see a flop. We have the king of diamonds, 4 of diamonds. There's
6,400 in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. And the flop comes king of diamonds, 9 of spades, 5 of diamonds. So we flop.
Did you say king of diamonds?
Sorry, I did say king, but I meant to say 10 of diamonds, 9 of spades, 5 of diamonds. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah, 10, 9, 5 with 2 diamonds. So we have the king high flush draw, and an overcard for what it's worth, and he checks to us. Mm-hmm. So you had said one fun thing about pumping it up with a hand like this is you can semi-bluff when you flop a flush draw. So here we have one. I guess continue with the plan, right? And go ahead and bet it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what kind of sizing do you prefer here?
I like at this stack depth a very small size, right? For a couple of reasons. One, it allows us to double barrel fairly often when we get called. And if we get raised, we will likely have some fold equity to get it all in, right? If we make it big here, say we bet like 5K or 4,500 into 6,400, and then he raises to 15K, we don't have any fold equity, and we end up just like either calling it off with king 4 of diamonds with just a naked flush draw, or we end up folding a lot of equity with a flush draw, right? And neither of those situations are good. They suck, right? They're just really bad spots to be in. And so if we bet like 1,200 or 1,500 on the flop and he raises to, 4K or 6K, we have plenty of chips to either decide to flatten C1 card and fold if we get bet and we miss on the turn, or semi-bluff shove if he checks to us on the turn, or make a flush and go for max value, or we have plenty of fold equity if we decide to come back over the top facing a check raise when we make it a small bet. So I like betting, I would say anywhere from 12 to 1,800, but I would lean more towards like the 12 to 1,500 range.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really small bet, especially given that we had 3-bet to 3,000 before the flop. Now you're going to drop it all the way down to maybe 1,200. That's the kind of bet that almost wants to induce a check raise, right? Maybe he might have been playing a check fold, and now and that's great when he does that if he's bluffing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you still have room to push him off. I really like that. Yeah, I didn't really consider anything in that range, size-wise. But yeah, I like it a lot. That's really a good idea. Because what'll happen is he might check expecting to just fold when we continuation bet, and he missed with whatever he had. Mm-hmm. And then if you just bet 1,200, he might just say, "Oh, I can't let this guy have this big pot for 1,200," and then get more involved than he wanted to.
Yeah, well then you had 2,400, so now we have 8,800 in the middle, and then you drop 5,500 on the turn.
Right.
And
so he could call, or he could even check raise the flop.
Yep.
and then you could shove on him, and now he's in a really bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or he can call right, and then you can just double barrel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can double barrel comfortably. Think about this. Like, think about if you bet like 3,500 here, right? So we start with 22,000. Now we're down to 19,000, and then you bet 3,500 into 6,400 on the flop. So now we're at what? We're at 15,500, and we bet 35. So we bet 3,500. We have 15,500, and now there's going to be like 13K in the pot, right?
Right.
So think about what that does to our flexibility on the turn. Like, now all of a sudden, we have to either jam the turn or check back and hope we hit. We're just in a really shit spot on the turn where it's like, I think the best play would be just double barrel. If you're going to play it for that size on the flop and you get called, you just got to like keep repping the big hand and go for broke there on the turn with your semi bluff. I think checking back would be a huge mistake if you play it for that sizing. Anyway, I'm sort of rambling on about the different sort of ideas of what can happen, but that's why I like such a small bet. It just allows us more flexibility, more streets to play. It allows us to, like, if we do decide to check back the turn, we haven't over-invested post-flop, and we still have plenty of chips behind, that we're not sort of, like, giving up on a huge pot. We're giving up on a medium-sized pot or a small pot, compared to our stack size.
Sure.
Fair enough?
Yeah, I mean, this is great. And this is, to me, the value of being able to do a podcast with, someone who thinks about the game the way you do. I didn't even think about possibly doing a very small bet on the flop. I figured, look, I flopped a flush draw. I need to bet enough to get this guy to fold. And, and if he calls, then I still have equity and I can shove the turn. Mm-hmm. But, you've set it up with this small bet. You might be able to triple barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think, I want to just push back a little bit on the idea that, you're just rambling about all the things that can happen. I mean, isn't this what we have to do? Like, you have to think about all the things that can happen. That's how you develop the right strategy.
So I think you just hear that little bit of like under the weather insecurity coming through at me.
Yeah, no.
We'll call it under the weather insecurity. Okay, that's what we'll stick with that. Okay.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, I'm here to tell you, you are good enough, you're smart enough, and everyone loves you. So
thank you.
Yeah. So so I bet a more standard amount. I bet 35, about half the pot, a little bit more actually. And I got check raised to 9K.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what you said. Now I'm in this horrible spot.
This fucking spot, right?
It's like, do I want to fold? I'm sure I have a lot of equity in the hand.
Yeah, you do have. I mean, you're gonna have you're definitely gonna have a reasonable amount of equity in this hand when you have a flush draw, but now you don't have any fold equity, or at least no perceived fold equity. You'd have to have just a stone air bluff, but he's a very straightforward reg, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was my read on him. Yeah.
We basically called him like the 18-15-6 guy,
yeah,
right?
The average stats,
it's just your straightforward, like very ABC reg, so he's probably just has a hand here, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we just have to make a discipline. We've played ourselves into a spot where we just have to fold out a lot of equity, I think.
Yeah. That sucks so bad. I mean, I was trying to range his check raising to 9K range. I thought he could have like a queen jack, which I'm actually ahead of. I thought there might be other flush draws that I'm beating.
Well, there could be a couple of those, but he did raise and then call a 3-bet. So, like, what flush draws exactly do you think he might have when the 10 of diamonds is on the board? What was the other diamond? I know there was a 10 and a 9. The 9 wasn't a diamond, though, was it?
Right, the bottom card, the 5.
The 5. Okay, so the 10 and the 5 were diamonds. So that means what? He has, like, 9-8 of diamonds, which is a pair and a flush draw that has us beat.
Yeah, and could play this way.
8-7 of diamonds has an open ender and a flush draw. He has more equity than us. Well, actually, he blocks our flush draws. He doesn't have more equity than us. We still have the best hand there because we block his flush draws.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of equity with his straight outs still and his pair outs.
Right.
So let's think of what other diamonds he has. Like, he could have queen jack, but what other queens does he have that are 2 diamonds? diamonds.
Right.
He just doesn't have that many combos of diamonds, and yeah, he could have Queen Jack once in a while, but mostly this is just going to be like sets and like playing Ace 10 kind of fast, or maybe he just called pre with a big pair and is deciding to go for broke here, you know?
Yeah, I felt like he could have a big pair. I thought he could have Ace 10.
Yep.
I thought he could have Queen Jack. He could have diamonds, but as you say, there aren't that many combos, but there are some. I thought he could have a pair and a straight draw. He could have a pair and a flush draw, or possibly just a naked straight draw with Queen Jack or 8-7. Yeah, I thought that whole range, I didn't feel comfortable folding because there's enough in that, in his range that, versus that range we just described. I have so much power.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't fold, then what do I do? Right? Do I want to call?
No, you would just get it all in.
Yeah, you just got to get it all in.
You just got to get it all in here. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so we're getting in, 20, or we're getting in 19K to win 19 plus 64, so 25. Plus, no, actually, yeah, well, no. You bet 35, so we're getting in 15-5 to win like 28, right? So we're getting like 2 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could, should I pull up an equity calculator and put it through?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely could. I mean, I feel like I have enough equity against a lot of the range we just said. Plus,
well, versus a lot of the range you do, for some of the range, I just wonder overall. I mean, now that might take it might, on a podcast where there's no visual, it might be a little bit dull to look up use the equity calculator right now, so we'll skip it.
Yeah.
But it's probably pretty close, right?
I think it's pretty close, yeah. So, yeah, it wasn't like a fist pump shove, get it in, like, love my life against everything he could possibly have. Because like you say, he could even have a set. I mean,
some of the things that we didn't consider too are like he could have some of like the ace jack of diamonds,
better flush draw
of diamonds,
right? The better flush draws, that already have us beat, and we're drawing super thin against, and that's what I was most worried about. Was like, did I really get so unlucky that he's got an ace high flush draw when I flop a king high flush draw? And I'm about to get all my chips in against that. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
My problem was I thought he could love his hand if he had like ace 10 or jacks or queens. And then, with my 12 outs, I'm looking good against those hands. But, like you say, it's really about the full range, not just what exactly does he have this exact time. So it was a tough spot. But yeah, let's not do the equity. Like you said, that's going to take too long to do on a podcast. I'm sure the listeners at home have already done it. Most of them have already done. They listen to the podcast while having their equity calculators ready to go anyway, so they can berate me for my stupid plays. So I shoved, and I was up against 2 black aces.
Yeah.
So not the worst spot, but not how you want to get your money in.
No, I mean, that means we have like 9 outs twice. So we have like, we were basically getting exactly enough equity to be making like a little bit long term there, I think.
Right. And then if you're doing that in cash games for the rest of your life, you're fine. But doing that in tournaments is obviously a lot more tragic. I don't know. I don't play that many short-handed tournaments. I don't know how many 5-handed tournament tables I've been at in my career when it's only like the 5th hour of day one.
Yeah.
So I think that may have like messed with my mind a little bit, and I felt like I need to play faster because it's a 5-handed table, and I've already posted the big blind and the ante and all of that stuff. So yeah, I was hoping I could get you to talk about that a little bit, like how much adjusting of your basic strategy would you suggest when you enter a 6-max tournament and now you're at a 5-handed or sometimes even a 4-handed table as players bust and they're slow to replace them. How much does that affect your style and your basic strategy?
I mean, I'm basically just going to be, if you're a 5-handed table or a 6-handed table, you're just playing like, your low jack, high jack, cutoff button ranges and then your small blind ranges. So you're just playing more hands because you're always in late position, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you're basically like, even when you're first to go, I guess that's the last middle position, technically.
Right.
But you're in late middle position and then late position, and so, you're going to be playing. Everyone's going to have a little bit wider of ranges. Well, theoretically, everyone should have a little bit. The ranges should be a bit wider than they would at a 9-handed table. It's like the first 3 guys folded, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
here I'm a 5-handed table, so it's basically like I'm the hijack, right? You're if you're under the gun, you're the hijack. I mean,
the low jack. Oh, 5-handed. Yes,
5-handed,
hijack.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like sticking with 6 in my head for some reason.
Yeah,
But yes,
no, it's okay.
Right.
And of course, in this hand, like I mentioned, I'm the big blind, but I'm just thinking like, how do you generally do you defend more when you have to post a big blind ante that is the full amount of the big blind every 5 hands?
I honestly don't know. I have never played in a big blind ante tournament, and I am not really sure how we're supposed to view that. I think it's interesting. I think there's several ways to sort of think about it, though. One is, well, when you're in the big blind, you did commit those other chips, but I wonder if you're supposed to view it like as if you've just posted an ante every hand.
Right.
And then you actually have to come out of your pocket when you're in that spot. I don't know how that works when you're a short stack, though. Like, it seems like, your earlier position shove spots, you might be shoving a wider range because you're going to have to put 2 big blinds in the big blind.
Yeah.
So there should be some dynamic changes. I just haven't studied how to play the big blind ante, so I'm not exactly sure. I also wonder this, though. Even if you don't take into consideration that you've posted 2 blinds, what I wonder is, all right, get your thoughts together, Jason.
That's okay. I'm sure you took some heavy medicine for your tragic illness that you're suffering.
No, but like, think about how big those antes are, though. Like, you're at a 5-handed table. If you divide the ante by 5, you guys are each putting in 100 chips at 400 blind.
Sure.
Or I guess 75 chips maybe, or not
80,
quite, a little bit more than 75.
80
yeah,
chips,
80.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone's putting in like a 20% ante.
Right.
Those are big antes to fight for, so your ranges are going to be even wider than usual because usually antes are much smaller than 20%.
Of course. Yeah, and the way I was looking at it, and people pick on me a little bit. I get a little bit of flack because I'm old school. I like to think in terms of M. Your M is just your SPR before the flop. I don't know why we're all so comfortable with SPR on the flop, but not as much before the flop. And I think when you get a curveball like a big blind ante that a lot of us aren't exactly used to playing, it makes a big difference because if each of us had posted the normal ante for 200, 400, the ante might have been 50, and then there would only be 50 times 5, 250 in antes in the pot. But in this case, I posted 400. That's a big difference.
Yeah, so when you think in terms of M, like you do, you have an advantage in these oddball situations because you know how you play at a certain M, where when you're thinking big blinds, you're not, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like if you play in those ante-only tournaments, you playing with a certain amount of M is going to be so much more beneficial than in big blinds when big blinds don't matter in ante-only tournaments, right?
Finally, someone endorses my love of M. Thank you.
Well, no,
Jason.
I think that's a skill I think I need to pay more attention to because I think when you do end up in these weird structures in live tournaments, especially in these smaller series that run through the states. And you end up in these weird anti-structures where the anti-structures even fluctuate. Like some levels they're 10% and some levels they're like 18%, just depending on which level of the tournament you're at.
Sure.
They just sort of fluctuate because of the availability of chips. Like they take away some. Anyway, rambling again, but yeah, no, I agree. I think M is a super important skill, and I wish I had that. I wish that's something I need to pay more attention to and start thinking in those terms.
Yeah, I think that, when online coaching kind of became a thing, it was just an easy shortcut to be like, I have X number of big blinds. But prior to online coaching becoming a thing, a lot of us learned tournament strategies from books. And most of those books talked in terms of M because it was just a more exact measurement of how many times I can go around the table, right? M tells you how many times you can go around the table before you get blinded off, assuming the blinds don't go up and you don't play any pots. Whereas your number of big blinds doesn't exactly tell you that because it doesn't account for the antes. And how the antes can change based on how many people are at the table, or just that some tournaments they have a structure where the ante is really large, or just different variables that aren't considered when you're just calculating your number of big blinds. So yeah, I will keep pounding the table on how important M is, and it's nice to have at least one pro who's at least somewhat on my side on that.
Yeah,
fight.
no, I think I totally am.
Good. Thank you. All right, so we have time. Do you want to do like one more hand that I played in Florida?
Sure.
All right, great. So this one's going to come from the main event. I lost that hand with the aces, by the way, and it was a tough way to go. But yeah, the aces beat me, and I couldn't catch a diamond, so that was that. Yeah, I shoved and lost. So now we're going to move on to the main event, which was a few days later. This tournament's fun. It's a $1,500 buy-in. There's 3 starting days, and they actually have a total of, well, there's a day 2, and then day 3 is the final table. So this is early in the event. I found myself in a really good table. A lot of my opponents seem to be satellite winners, or maybe just like old retirees in Florida that play a couple of tournaments every year and don't really study the game or know how to play. I mean, they know the rules, of course, but I mean, they don't really think too hard about strategies and stuff. A lot of them are also paying attention to college football games that are in progress and horse racing events that are happening. But this particular casino is also a racetrack, so some of the clientele is horse racing enthusiasts and people that bet on horses. So it's not exactly the World Series of Poker. It's just a different vibe, and I'm at a great table. So my strategy thus far has been to not bluff, to try to play all my hands for value, and just basically exploit the mistakes that amateur or inexperienced or unstudied players tend to make, which is calling too much. It's been working out great. I started with 25K. I now have 50K, and it's only level 2, and I haven't played a huge all-in pot. I've just value bet and gotten called with a lot of good hands in the first hour and a half. So, smooth sailing thus far. Here we are in third position at a 9-handed table, also known as under the gun +2. The blinds are 100 and 100. So the small blind and the big blind are each 100, and the big blind ante is 100.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is happening. So they're putting in 100, 100, 100. Yeah, in this tournament they started off with a big blind ante from the first level, which I thought was strange. Anyway, we have 50K. We're in third position with ace-queen offsuit, and our first 2 opponents limp in for 100 each.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's not like what you're playing on ACR at all. So what should we do?
I'll certainly raise, and probably make it 600 or 700.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's pretty uncontroversial, that opinion. That's what I did too. I made it 600.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another player, 2 to my left, who has been noticeably clueless, just pretty much calling everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he just calls.
He's playing some bingo.
Yeah,
right on.
He's calling to see the flop every single time. It doesn't matter what you make it. He's going to see
Every time
that
the
flop.
dealer gets ready to pull the flop down, he's rubbing his hands together come on, baby.
Yeah. So he's into it. He's in it to win it.
Nice. Good for him. Good for him.
And then after he calls, they all fold to the small blind, who calls, and the small blind is also a noticeably bad player. He's probably 85 years old, and
Okay.
just, really just like a very emotional guy. Like he's the kind of guy like every time he folds, he has to show his neighbor.
Okay.
Can you believe I missed? That kind of thing. So he's
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Cranky old dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
now, the big blind in his hand is, he doesn't fit the mold that the rest of my opponents fit. He's kind of a tough talking guy in his 30s, wears sunglasses.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, he's like that guy. Like, he's kind of like got a certain amount of disdain for
Yeah.
everyone at the table and maybe everyone in the world.
Nothing makes me happier than busting a guy like that in a tournament. He's like, if you were going to paint a picture of who does Jason want to bust in a tournament, you just describe that guy to a T.
Yeah, he's pretty hateable.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So
Like, yeah, see you later, bro.
Yeah. So he makes it 2,700 from out of the big blind.
Oh, okay.
Now I've been playing at this table for a couple hours. I think this is maybe the first or second 3-bet that I've seen like all day. So it kind of got.
Is he 25K deep or so?
He was a little more. Yeah, he was about 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he's put in like almost a 10% of his stack here. And the first 2 limpers fold, and now it's on me.
And you got Splashy McGee and Cranky whatever behind you, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. Splashy is on my left, and the other one is the small blind.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of who's left in the pot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is such a fucking stupid spot. I mean, I would probably just call here a lot. I could see an argument for a fold. I almost would never 4-bet because he's probably just not going to be 3-betting light here all that often unless you have a read that he would do that. But it seems like he's in the big blind. There's a lot of money already in there. He would just want to take 3 cards and see a flop with most of his hands. So his raise is going to be pretty strong. But I just think you're likely to get 4 ways at 2,700 each. And like you have a chance if you flop really well to win a massive pot here. So I can see an argument for a call or a fold, I think.
Yeah, I didn't really consider 4-betting. To me, I considered it, of course, but I kind of ruled it out pretty quickly like you did. I felt like my choice was between folding and calling. And I think the case for folding is just I don't close the action. Obviously, people in Florida do like to slow play their aces, as we saw 2 days ago in the other tournament I just described. So it's possible that one of the old guys on my left, who is now waiting, could wake up and then suddenly put in a 4-bet. It's kind of a minor consideration, but I don't close the action, so I can't guarantee that by calling I'll see a flop. I think another reason to fold is just I'm at such a good table. I don't need to be putting myself into any difficult spots at all.
Yeah.
Like if this flop comes queen high and this guy bets 3 times, do I want to call him all the way down and lose a third of this big stack that I've built up so fast? It's
I have no arguments with those thoughts. I think it's probably the correct play to be more disciplined and just let it go.
Yeah, especially at this good of a table, I don't need to take chances. But, in the moment I was thinking about, I could play a really big pot with, I'll be in position against the guy that kind of knows what he's doing, and I'll also have a strong enough hand to see a flop. I kind of talked myself into calling, but even as I was calling, I was like, I should probably just fold this, but I couldn't resist, as we say. So I put in another 2,100, and let's see, the guy on my left folds, and
he folded.
He folded.
Oh man, I would have lost a lot of money to you if you had bet me. Does this guy call or fold?
I couldn't believe.
He's calling easy.
I thought 100% he's calling, but the small blind, the really old guy, did call. So 3 of us saw a flop, and I'm in position against both of them. So it's me in the blinds. There's 2,700 plus 600 plus 300 plus...
It's 9,200, I think.
92, yeah, that's what I come up with off the top of my head. I forgot to write down the pot size here. So yeah, let's say it was 9,200. And the flop was 6 of spades, 5 of hearts, deuce of spades, and we have the ace of spades. So we have ace of spades, queen of diamonds. So we didn't flop much other than our backdoor flush draw and 2 overcards. The small blind checks and looks disappointed and is not good at hiding his emotions, and there's no chance he's acting. He's done. He's pretty much done with the hand every time.
His fucking fingers went into his armpits and he sighed real hard. And,
he just can't hide it and seems to not know that he should hide it. So
yeah.
And then our tough talking friend bets 3,300, which is a tiny bet, especially in live. You just don't see that sizing very much. So it's up to me.
Yeah, so, I mean, we do have the ace of spades, and we do have this guy giving up behind us already. So, I mean, I think we have to see a turn card. And, I think the plan should be bet when checked to us on the turn.
Okay.
Pretty much always.
Yeah, so it's just a straight up float, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, with some, 2 overs and a backdoor nut flush draw.
Yeah. Okay, so I agree. I called. I didn't really consider raising. I just didn't see any reason to go to war like that. And his sizing was so small that I think I was basically priced in. If my cards are live, even, I think I'm priced in to call. So...
you're calling 3,300 to play for a 15.8k pot.
Yeah,
that's what's in the middle now going to the turn.
Yeah,
So it's It's,
all right.
I can't imagine folding for that price. If you would have bet like 7,500, or even I think even if you would have bet like 5,000, we might have just been like, okay, whatever, let's just get out of here before this gets ridiculous.
Yeah, I think even 42.
Yeah,
probably get me out, but it's just 33. I was like, all right, you got me. If you're milking me, then you just milked another 3,300. I'm going to call and see what he does on the turn. So the turn club comes the 9 of clubs, and he checks. And
so it's 9-6-5 deuce.
Yeah, 9-6-5 deuce with
2 clubs, 2 spades.
Correct. No, sorry.
Yeah, and there's.
It's 2 spades and 1 heart and 1 club. So
okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just gonna bet here, right? And probably something, if we had a value hand, how would we want to bet it? We'd want to bet it so that we were playing for stacks on the river. So, guy with 30,000 makes it 2,700, then bets 33. He's put 6k in, so he has 24k.
Right.
There's 15.8 in the pot, so let's bet 4,500 or 5,000.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm with you. I bet 5,400.
Yeah. Cool.
So maybe a little larger than you would.
Yeah, but that's anywhere from 4 to 6k. I think is fine. It's just anywhere in that range. You know?
It's in that ballpark. And my opponent tanks for maybe about 30 seconds and calls. Now 30 seconds is a long time.
It is.
So it might sound like a short time, but it's actually quite a while.
It feels like a lot longer than 30 seconds. When you're facing a decision when you know you're bluffing.
Right.
Come on, man. Fucking let's do this. What are you gonna do, bro?
Totally.
How long do I have to stare at this board for? Let's move it on.
Right. So he ends up making me sweat it out. But the result of that was that I just put him on a very capped range. Obviously he checked the turn. Mm-hmm. And now he's trying to decide whether to call, and I really felt like it was a hard decision for him, and I didn't think it was between calling and raising me. I felt like it was between calling and folding. So I started to get, and this is part of what it's hard to describe on a podcast or even if I talk to one of my poker friends, but I hate to say playing by feel, but I do get a feeling sometimes, and I tend to trust my instincts in those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when he check calls there that he's very rarely going to have a set or an overpair because he's going to want to protect those on that board texture versus what you're calling the 3-bet pre-flop and floating the flop range is. He's going to want to get a lot of value out of your medium pocket pairs or flush draws, hands like that. So, he's going to bet all those hands almost always. So, he does have a super capped range. And, we should be, if a king comes on the river, it's really ugly. But basically, like if you get a card 10 and under, or an ace, or not an ace or a queen, maybe a queen. If a queen comes, you should value shove, and if an ace comes, maybe we should just take our showdown. I don't know.
Interesting, yeah.
It's interesting, because the ace comes, like he could have ace king there a fair amount. Like he would play ace king that way.
Yeah, I feel like it's a huge part of his range actually.
And what hands are going to call you on the river if he doesn't have ace king in that spot? I mean, is he 3-betting ace jack? He probably would have just called pre with ace jack.
I agree 100%.
Right?
I think you evaluate this.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, you just have to. You have to just take the pot when you finally make a pair. You just check and pull. That's it.
Yeah, well, not if it's the queen though, because if it's a queen, he's not gonna. We already ruled out over pairs.
Right.
And it's so he's not gonna have a set of queens. He's not gonna have kings or aces.
Sure.
So a queen, we could go for a value shove if he has a hand like say pocket eights on this board, and for whatever reason wants to believe that we missed our flush draw.
Agreed.
We could still get some value with a hand like that, and we don't want to have all bluffs here.
Sure, you want to balance, yeah.
Yeah, you want to have as much as you're not really going to have that many value shoves in our particular situation, but you want to with our particular hand anyway. But anyway, so you bet. What did you bet on the turn?
54.
54, he calls. So now what do we have? 10-8 plus 15-8, so what's that, 26-6?
Yes.
26-6 in the middle, and he has 24K in his stack, and we have him covered. So the river is what?
Jack of Hearts. I know, not my favorite card.
Well, it's just like not one of the qualifiers. We agreed, like 10 and under, and then ace or queen. Or queens, really. 10 and under and a queens, we're going to get all the money in on the river. But it's a fucking jack, so it's like one of the cards where it's like...
Yeah, we're not...
Well, actually, what jacks does he have, though?
Right, I mean, he doesn't have ace...
Jack?
Yeah, he doesn't have ace jack, does he? I mean, I don't think he can call the turn with that.
I don't think he check calls the turn with it, and I don't know that he 3-bets it. So there's two sort of disqualifying factors there. So... not very likely. There is some chance that he could have pocket jacks and played it a little bit slow on the turn because he started to get, cold feet with such a big pot or something like that, right?
Right.
Like there's some chance that can be true. But, I don't know, maybe he doesn't have enough jacks in his range, and maybe we should just be ripping the jack too, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, it's like we're just worried about him having made a set on the river. I mean, that's pretty rare, right? So...
Yeah, it's pretty rare. We've ruled out sets earlier in the hand. He's probably just has a hand that's like literally ace-king, man. He probably has ace-king.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly what he has here, and so we should just rip it in because he can't call you with ace-king here. I mean, he just can't.
And we can't win by checking, so he checks immediately when the jack hits, which also kind of helped me make the play. But I didn't rip it in. I only put in 13-6. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do if he check raises, but I just don't think he's ever check raising. I thought it would look less bluffy if I just bet half his stack. I don't know. Is there anything to even talk about with that? Is it silly?
Well, so, I mean, I don't know. People have different ideas about what different sizes will gain them in those situations. I basically am going to say this. If he's going to... call it off there for if we have a value hand in that situation, right, and he calls 13-6, is he not calling for 24? Right? So it's like when we have a value hand, we should always be shoving for just about a pot size shove on that river, unless it's like we think we're up against a very capped range versus a player who's not going to turn hands into bluffs, and we want to bet something really small on the river for value. I guess once in a while, exploitatively, you can do that. But I think theoretically speaking, we should basically just have all jams on the river, whether we're bluffing or value betting. And I personally would jam here if I was going to bluff, but, I'm sure you can come up with an argument why 13-6 is okay or why 8,500 might have been okay. Just for me, for the way I play poker, it would be a jam. but I'm open to, the other ways of doing it can be okay too.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing about not jamming is when he does hero call, then we still have a stack to try to get back in the tournament, I guess, but it's...
Well, but then there's the argument, does he hero call for his whole stack, or is he hero calling because he's going to have, 12k left or 11k left or whatever?
Right, that's what I was going to say. Like, he could have the same rationale for calling. Well, if I call and lose, I still have my stack.
Yeah.
Right? So, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Well, anyway, he does fold, and he took a while to do so, and then he said that if I had shoved, he would have called. But I don't know if I believe that.
That doesn't even make any goddamn sense. That's the most ridiculous thing when people say shit like that.
This is the kind of stuff you hear at the table.
Oh, right? You would have called for a worse price because obviously.
And he also claimed to have pocket kings, which I also don't believe. I think we figured out. He pretty much has ace king every time here.
Yeah. Did he have his shades on when he told you that?
Yeah. Yeah, he never takes them off. He never takes them off for any reason.
Of course he doesn't. Yeah, sure you had pocket kings, buddy. Sure you did.
Yeah. So that was kind of a fun one. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I've taken up enough of a sick man's time. And Jason, I want to thank you again for participating in the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it.
I definitely enjoyed it, and I hope we get to do this again. So, anytime you want to have me back, man, shoot me a message, and I like doing it with you. I like hanging out with you. I like talking hands with you. So, I'm open to being back for sure.
Cool, man. Likewise. Well, we appreciate you. Tell us again how people can follow you on Twitter and anywhere else they might be able to find you.
I am at Snostnlost Poker on Twitter. I am twitch.tv/Snostnlost on Twitch. I think we'll go with those two. I think that's basically it.
Where's your sexy poker vlog that we can all follow who you're going to marry and stuff? That's coming soon, right?
When that comes out, I'll be sure to let you know. We'll do a celebration podcast for the sexy poker vlog.
Can't wait. I'll be waiting with bated breath. Really appreciate you joining me again, Jason. So for Jason Smith and for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Talk to you soon.
Texas, please. Fold 'em, let 'em hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with base to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her.